This video is a practical walkthrough to show you how you can use slot components to build a scalable system in Figma. And what I'm going to be talking about as an example is the course landing page editor on Maven. Quickly showing you how it works. Instructors can come in here, click on a section, and then easily customize that section to be able to promote their course on Maven. And so you can see you can have these little items here where you can drag them around, click into them, make any updates you'd like. But the thing is, what makes this part of the product relatively complex to design is you have all of these different section types. And within each section type, all of the content that you're editing is changing. And so the goal is to build this in a way where we have minimal sources of truth, so I can quickly come in here and make updates, but also it needs to be super flexible because I have no idea how many sections we're gonna offer a year from now, and also all of the different configurations that are possible within that section. Okay, so now that we have the context, let's look at Figma and see how we can set something like this up. So this is the main screens here that are documenting the primary layouts of the page. But actually, the magic happens at this local component level here. And you can see this system of components where everything feeds into each other. And so the bulk of this video is just going to be me walking through how this system works, and then hopefully you can apply some of the high-level ideas in terms of how I'm actually using these slot components. So starting at the highest level, I have a simple sidebar component here. And you'll notice that there's only two variants. It's this section state here, and then the individual editor. And that is mapping to these here. Now, what I didn't want to do is have a separate variant for every single one of these sections, because then if I want to make updates at the header level or deleting the section or anything else that I can't even think of yet, I'm going to have to make that update n number of times depending on the number of sections that we have. And so what I've done instead, if we crack open the layer list here, is inside of this, I have an edit section component, and that's within a scroll track here. So I have a single layout for this section editor, and then I have an edit section component. And you can see here, I have a variance dropdown for all of my different sections. So if I click into here, you can see it's simply a new component here, and it's the edit section sidebar UI. So here are all of my different states. And what you'll notice, there's the same repeatable pattern. We wanted to make it a checklist almost, where you have the numbered items of what you have to do to design that section. And a lot of this UI repeats. For instance, we have the individual items here. That's using the same UI, even though the contents are changing. And then within each of these numbers, I also have a consistent UI here where we have this title, description, and then sometimes there's the component underneath, and sometimes there's the items list, and sometimes it's a combination of the two of them. So now let's go to the lowest level and we'll work our way back up so you can see how this works. Because what I don't want to do is have all of this be one-off, because if I decide actually we're going to make a change to the way that this list works and what this open item component looks like, I would have to make that change so many times. So I know that I'm going to want a component for this section item here. But the challenge is that this content inside of it can change infinitely. I already have 12 plus permutations of what this could be, and it's growing. And so I need to build this in a way where I have a single source of truth for what this component is, but I can put any type of content in it. And that is the perfect use case for a slot. So you'll see inside of this selected variant here, I have the item editor component. So that defaults to a slot, but I have a component for each one of my sections again. So if I follow this, you'll see here I have the selected item editor. And if I click on this, for each section type, there is an item editor. And we can zoom in and kind of look and see what that looks like. It's basically some combination of a form each time. But what that allows me to do then is when I'm designing a new section, like let's say I create a new section here, I could come in and I have all of my content available here. So you can see I could change to the syllabus, hero section, testimonials, anything I'd like. And all I have to do to make that possible is just duplicate a new section here, call this new section, and I can make this content whatever I'd like. Okay, one more level of nesting is I have this repeated layout here with the title and the description and the tabs and the items. And similarly, if I want to make a change to that layout, I don't want to make that n number of times. And so what I've done is I have a section component as well. And all this does is take that text with the title and the description, and then I have this items list here, and I've just dropped a bunch of section items in. Almost always we only design like 4 or 5, and so you can see I've just hidden them here. And then I have the button, which actually, let's call that button. Now, there's a few different variations of what this could look like. Sometimes there are tabs below. Sometimes it's just tabs. Sometimes it's just the section items, and sometimes it's none. And what that allows me to do, again, if I come up here and I would make a new section, I can quickly click on one of these, click on the section component, and then I have these controls where I can easily add an items list and tabs if I'd like. So hopefully that was not overwhelming. The core takeaway is anytime you have a single component where the UI of that component stays the same, but the contents within that component can change infinitely, that is the perfect use case for a slot. And I thought this example was particularly useful because that concept is happening both at the high level, where I have a single slot for this huge layout here, but also at the subcomponent level, where I have individual slots within the selected item. And so I'm using slots from the top down and from the bottom up, and it creates this system where I only have one knob to turn for every single change that I want to make. And if I was going to create a new section and I realized, actually, I need to update the way that the core layout works, I would be able to do that in one place and then simply create my new content here and spin up a new section by doing some simple overrides. And I'm at the point now where I can make those changes really quickly, but most importantly, the system is super flexible where I will be able to turn on a dime if we decide to make a change to how this experience works. I hope it was helpful. Don't hesitate to ping me if you have any questions or ideas.